Hi everyone, I'm Jesse, or Game Over Jesse, and today we will be continuing our previous discussion with Matt about Nintendo and Zelda Wii U. But this time we also have a new guest joining us who is Fran, so why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves and let everyone know who you are.
Go ahead, Fran.
Oh, okay. Well, I run a channel called BlindGamerMisadventures, where you can tell by the name I am a blind gamer, and it's pretty much me making fun of myself, of me attempting to play multiple types of games and seeing how far I can get with and without help.
Hello everybody, my name is Matt. My YouTube channel is TruthSeeker182. It is an honor to be here and to be part of Jesse's video again. We are just going to continue where we left off from the last time. So I'm just going to get right into the questions. Okay, so here we go. So in November of 2011, right when Skyward Sword came out, there was a roundtable discussion that happened with Mr. Aonuma and a bunch of the heads of Nintendo. And he said that many people in the company have great ideas, but at the end of the day, there were 5 people that are what he calls the gatekeepers. And these are the people that get the final say on what makes it into the game and what doesn't, right? So here's my question to you guys. Who are these 5 people now for Zelda Wii U? Now, we know that Mr. Aonuma is the producer of the game, but who is the director? Who is directing the game? Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the director as important, if not more important, than the producer? And the fact that we don't know who's directing the game raises a red flag to me that's very concerning, that they haven't even mentioned or told anybody, the press or the public, on who is directing this game. That is very concerning to me. Even more so, I would argue, is the music composer. You guys, Mr. Koji Kondo, the most legendary, in my opinion, the most legendary music composer for any video game franchise of all time, he is not the one that is composing this soundtrack for Zelda Wii U. He is not the composer. So who is? The game is going to be coming out at a maximum 10 months from now, 11 months from now, less than a year it's going to be coming out. Yeah, about 10 months from now. And we don't know who's making the music? We don't know who's composing the music? That's another huge red flag. So I want to see what you guys have to think about that. Who's the director of this game, and why have we not heard about any of these 5 gatekeepers? And who's composing the music? Who's conducting the music, you know?
Alright, so my thoughts on who is directing the game. Usually when you think of Aonuma on a Zelda game, your next thought is Miyamoto is also going to be on it. But with the recent passing of Nintendo's last CEO and president, Iwata, I believe Miyamoto has more things on his plate, because not only is he the creator of the Zelda series, but he also has Donkey Kong, Mario, and several other franchises to worry about, so he can't give all of his focus on just one project. And with that said, there was also a past interview with Miyamoto where the person giving the interview asked him if he wanted to be in charge of Nintendo, or the CEO of Nintendo, or whatever.
Right.
And the answer he gave was that no, he didn't, but he was thinking about his older age and sort of bringing people under his wing and training them and the way of thinking and designing a game the same way that he does. That way, if he leaves Nintendo, or if something happens to him, or if he gets a position to where he can't directly work on a video game, then there would still be someone there that sort of thinks like he does and acts the way that he does to influence the game as he would if he was still in that position. And with that said, I think that maybe this mysterious director that they haven't announced yet, it could be someone that would basically be an unknown, that if they did give a name, nobody would know who he was. Maybe he doesn't have much experience, or it could be the exact opposite, to where it's someone who's worked on a previous franchise like Final Fantasy or some other similar game like Darksiders or something, to where they would be experienced in that, but they may think that announcing this guy's from somewhere besides Nintendo may get people's sort of angry that it's not someone who's already familiar with Nintendo, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And my thoughts on the music composer is that while Koji Kondo may not be influencing the music directly and working on it, maybe it's a similar situation to where someone that he's worked with in the past is also taking over, or he's busy on another project, or it could even be simply that they'll just be reusing his music from past Zelda games. Like, we've seen songs like Zelda's Lullaby and other songs make appearances in newer Zelda games, even though they were originally created for older ones. It could be something similar to that, to where they're just reusing old music from past games and getting someone else to create the new music. Or instead of listing just one person, it could just be a team of people working to compose different music. And instead of listing one person, they don't feel the need to list like 5 or 6 separate people. Yeah.
All right.
A bit of a lengthy answer, but that's my thoughts on the two.
It's all good. And Fran, what do you think about the director and the new composer?
Definitely the new composer thing has me a bit nervous. I am a huge soundtrack fanatic, and I traveled 8 hours to see the Zelda Symphony.
Wow. Awesome.
So I've loved every single one of the soundtracks for each of the games. So to hear that Koji Kondo will not be returning is definitely a blow for me. I'm very nervous as to what can happen with that. However, I do think the passing of Iwata kind of, I don't know how to put it, maybe started to make the more senior members of Nintendo think of their mortality in a way that maybe they're starting to figure out ways to pass the torch to the new generation. And so I think that you guys are probably right in the fact that that maybe perhaps that they will be bringing in people from, different branches or different developers, or maybe even indie, you never know. And perhaps, kind of trying to show them the ropes and eventually, passing that torch so that new people can come in and take the places of, those people that we have grown to love, because eventually, that will happen. And so it would much rather be a smooth transition than, a huge shock to everyone involved, I think.
Yeah, Fran, you made a really good point that actually I didn't think about, which is the mortality of these people, of these developers. They're at one point in time they are going to leave us and be gone. So this very well may be the beginning of a transition where the people we've grown to know and love are realizing, hey, our president of 10 years, over 10 years, just passed away, and we're all not that very young anymore. So they very well could be learning to pass the torch on down to the younger generations and teaching them. I never really thought about that. That's very true, and that could be what's happening right now with the music as well.
Okay, so moving along. Now, we're going to rewind. It's about 6 months from then, but we're going to fast forward in the same sentence, in the same thought pattern right here. Just go with me on this. So let's rewind to June 7th of 2011. There was the Wii U announcement, and during this time, we got a trailer, or a video, whatever you want to call it, of what Nintendo deemed the Zelda HD experience. And this was the video, if you guys remember, where it was, I think it took place inside of the Temple of Time. It had Twilight Princess type graphics, and all it showed was Link walking into the temple, and I think Navi was with him, the little fairy. And then a huge spider, Goma, just like falls out of the ceiling, and he fights the spider for a little bit. It was this Zelda HD experience. Now here's the thing, you guys, that they were letting us know at this point that they were working on the next Zelda game, which ended up becoming Zelda Wii U. But like I said, this game, or this trailer, was announced and released 6 months before Skyward Sword. So there's two main points. It's like, that means if this holds true, if their behavior holds true for this year, Zelda Wii U comes out in December or November of this year, that means this E3, 6 months before that, we will get a Nintendo NX demo or video of the next Zelda game. The Zelda game that is coming out after Zelda Wii U. There's no way. There's no way that's happening, in my opinion. There's no way. They're not going to show us that, even if they have it, number one. And number two, I don't even think they're working on Zelda NX, the next Zelda game. I barely even think it's crossed their mind at this point, because they're so wrapped up in Zelda Wii U. They have dug themselves such a deep hole with this marketing campaign that I don't even think that they're anywhere close to even thinking about Zelda NX, which is very sad to me, very upsetting, because that means we might not get the next Zelda game after Wii U for maybe 6, 7, 8 more years after this, if they have to start absolutely fresh. So what do you guys think about that? Will we even see a hint of the next Zelda game at E3 this year?
For quite some time.
Right. And I think with that, as you're saying, they showed the concept for what a Zelda title on Wii U could look like before the next Zelda game that we were all expecting even released. And I think they did something similar, but the game wasn't announced yet. Whenever they showed off a tech demo for the GameCube at Space World 2000, I believe, they showed off, at the time, a pretty realistic Zelda game that was in the style of Ocarina of Time, just more detailed and kind of like a graphically overhauled version of Ocarina of Time.
Right.
And people looked at that and remembered playing Ocarina of Time and thought, wow, if this is what the next Zelda game is going to look like, then I'll just take my money.
Yep.
So, and then after they showed this for the time, again, this is GameCube, so there was limits, but at the time, super realistic Zelda game. And then they give us Wind Waker, which is all cartoony, the exact opposite. And at first, fans hated it. Now it's a fan favorite.
Yep.
So I guess the fans had to sort of get used to it. But then after that, I think Nintendo seen the reaction to Wind Waker at first and heard the comments, and then they worked on the realistic Zelda game for the GameCube, which was, again, realistic like the tech demo, but a different side of that realism graphical art style. And we got Twilight Princess. And then we've gotten Skyward Sword, which is just like a mix between Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. And then the Zelda Wii U that we have now, which is, I think, an expansion or an evolution of that mix between the realistic and the cartoony graphics. And if the pattern follows as it did with the GameCube, then the next Zelda game could be a different take on that super realistic art style for the Zelda tech demo. Since with the GameCube, Nintendo got the fan reaction, and then after the Zelda game they were working on, they released the realistic game that fans wanted. So with this, they showed off the tech demo, they seen fans asking for it, they said that it could be a possibility, or that the next Zelda game could end up looking nothing like that. In a way, I'm kind of glad, and at the same time sad that it didn't, because while it would be cool, I'm more interested in seeing different art styles, because any developer can make a realistic looking game. But to see like a brand new ideal of a graphical style, sort of like Skyward Sword, where they made it look like a painting, I think it really takes a great development team to sort of introduce that, because, again, anyone can model something to make it look realistic, but to make something look brand new and unique is something that I think requires a lot more skill. And as I was saying, if it does follow the same pattern, we get this unique Zelda Wii U game that we want, but then on the NX, we may be getting that tech demo style Zelda game that we've seen. And with what we assume is going to be the more powerful console, because Nintendo would be stupid to release a less powerful or even an equally as powerful console 3 or 4 years after the last console. Like, it's not just a smart idea. So maybe they'll take advantage of the more powerful console and give us that heavily realistic looking Zelda game that fans want. And with them showing off an example of what that could be, I don't think they will. I think because the main point of the tech demo that they showed us for Zelda Wii U was they wanted to show you how the gamepad could interact with the screen, how a Zelda game might look, and they used, I believe what they said is they took Twilight Princess and pretty much made it as detailed as the Wii U would allow them to make it. That's why, like, you still see some of the Twilight Princess-esque symbols around, like, the border of the Wii U gamepad and stuff when it shows, like, the off-screen footage. And you see stuff like that. And then when Twilight Princess HD was released or announced, people thought it might end up looking like that, and that's what they used the art style for, but it turned out not to be. So with them showing off the tech demo and saying this is what a Zelda game could look like on the Wii U, this is how it could work, I think with NX we'll just see possibly a port of Zelda Wii U that they're working on and kind of added new features to show us what would make the next Zelda game on NX set apart from the rest. And again, I went on a bit of a lengthy transition there, but yeah.
Yeah, that's all good. So, friend, what do you think? You think they're working on the next Zelda game after Wii U, or are they just too busy?
Oh man, I doubt it, considering how long it's taking them to get just Zelda U out the door.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to, be thinking that it's definitely in its planning stages.
Yeah.
But as for if it's, being coded and actually worked on, I most certainly doubt it at this point.
Yeah. As going on what she said, I think that is it being worked on, because I just kind of touched upon if they could be showing us something for Zelda NX, which I don't think they could. It's always a possibility, but I highly doubt it. I think they want to keep the focus on Zelda for Wii U. But with that said, I think that they do have some ideas for what they want the next Zelda game to be. I think I've stated this in a previous video of mine, where whenever they're working on a Zelda game, they'll come up with tons and tons of ideals that they like, but they're only able to implement so much because they want to add so much to a Zelda game that it becomes so tedious to learn everything, or there's so many different dungeons that you just get tired of playing it, so they set a limit to the dungeons, they set a limit to the weapons, they have to make sure it makes sense for the story. And with that, I think that the ideals that kind of get scrapped or that they like and sort of set to the side to use in a future Zelda game, I think they've already got tons of ideals for the next Zelda game, and they'll use that as sort of a building block to start Zelda for NX, and then they'll end up bringing in brand new ideals that only work for that system. Sort of like when Ocarina of Time, the expansion Zelda Ura, or Ura, however you pronounce it, was scrapped, and they just went with the base game. They ended up reusing a lot of those ideals for future Zelda games, like some of the dungeons were reused in Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, and even the concept of a sky dungeon was used in Twilight Princess. So with that, I think some of the scrapped ideals, or the ideals that they set aside, we could be seeing in a future Zelda game. So it could be in its planning stages, if you want to say that is planning for the next Zelda. But we don't even know what ideals are going to be scrapped from the Zelda Wii U, so even if we do see those, we won't know that it was originally meant for Zelda Wii U. It'll just be new to us.
Right. I hope, man. I can just hope and pray that they are working on the next Zelda game as well, because otherwise we might have to wait, 6 or 7 years for the next one.
And I apologize, guys, for the background noise. It's my laptop. It's really old. It's really old. Okay, so now let's talk about E3 2015. But before that, we had in, I believe it was January 2013, Zelda Wii U was announced in a Nintendo Direct. And then Wind Waker HD came out later that year, which was supposed to tide us over until Zelda Wii U came out. Look how that worked out. Then fast forward to 2014 E3, we got that 1-minute trailer of Link standing in Hyrule Field where he, ran across the field and was running away from that monster. Then we got that 4-minute demo which took place off screen of the Game Awards. Remember, with Mr. Aonuma and Mr. Miyamoto, they sat on the couch together and played Zelda Wii U off screen. They showed us off screen footage for about 4 minutes. Okay, now we fast forward 6 more months to E3 2015. First of all, there was no Zelda there, which is unforgivable, which is unacceptable. Honestly, it is unacceptable not to have the game there. Hands down, no questions about it. Not only was the game not there, when questioned about it, Mr. Reggie Fils-Aimé, the president of the Nintendo of America, flat out lied to us. He lied to the public and said that it's always been Nintendo's prerogative and Nintendo's focus to only focus on games that come out the next 6 months after E3. Which is a blatant lie, a blatant cover-up for the reason they didn't show Zelda Wii U, because there's many games that they've been showing for years that haven't come out. Like, the one I can think off the top of my head, Xenoblade Chronicles X, I believe it was called, that came out last year, 2015, I believe in November. That game was shown for quite a long time. So there goes that theory right out the window. There's no way that can be true. So why do you guys think that he did that? I think it's to cover up something that is going on in the background of the Zelda Wii U that we don't know about, and there's some reason that they've been hiding it so much. It is not because they're trying to make this a beautiful marketing campaign, because if they wanted to make it like that, if they were trying to provoke our thoughts and our minds to get the hype rolling, they would release steady information every few months, just a little tidbits here and there. But the fact that it wasn't there at all, and that he just flat out lies to us about Nintendo's prerogative, is very shady. So what do you guys think about that?
Is it bad that, what I think may happen is pretty much a Final Fantasy 13 versus goes into Final Fantasy 15 type thing? It seems like it could be a possibility, or it could be one of those games that is on Wii U and on the next. Because at this point in time, it's just getting closer and closer to the next reveal, and then so people are going to start to forget about the Wii U.
Yeah, that's true. And I want to state up front to everybody that it might sound like I hate Nintendo and I hate Zelda, but that's so far from the truth. That couldn't be more false. I love Nintendo and I love The Legend of Zelda. The only reason I'm being so critical about them is because I want them to be the best company that they can be, and I want them to release the best products that they can release. So,
Exactly.
And here we go with even more, and I hate to stay on the negative with this shady behavior, but then we have Triforce Heroes. We have this game, I think it got announced at E3. There was no Zelda Wii U, but then this random game comes out of nowhere, Triforce Heroes. And I'm not saying it was a bad game. I never played it. It looked interesting. It just wasn't my personal cup of tea. But then later, a couple months later, when that game came out, I believe it was October. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Mr. Aonuma said he had an interview, and he said, I want to reassure the fans that the development of Triforce Heroes did not impact in any way the development cycle for the Zelda Wii U, which, to me, when I read this, it just blew my mind. That is a blatant, once again, lie. Even if only one person made Triforce Heroes, even if they only took one Nintendo employee to make Triforce Heroes, that is one more person that could have been working on Zelda Wii U the entire time and helping making the game come out quicker and more efficiently. So how could he say that? What do you guys think about that statement?
Well, do we know, even if it was the same quote-unquote team of people who worked on Triforce Heroes versus those who are currently working on Zelda U?